Hey guys, how's it going? Just painting over that sword and shield piece that I mentioned yesterday in a post. I want this canvas, and this piece didn't get any response from offers and things like that, so it's time to say goodbye. But these things happen, and I just wanted to share with you guys the painting process. So I'm just gonna go over it with some pure brilliant white, doing the first coat right now, and then I'm gonna let it dry, do another coat, and I'll probably sand it down a bit because the sword itself is like super textured. It's actually really three-dimensional. So a bit sad to say goodbye. Bit sad, tear, single tear. But yeah, I mean, pieces come and go, and I came from a pastry background. You know what I mean? So in pastry, you make these ridiculously beautiful cakes or pastries or whatever the case may be. Oh, by the way, this is one of my favorite brushes. It's just like, it feels like, it's a proper long brush. It's just really a nice hand to it. But in pastry, you spend half a day, 2 days making these ridiculous cakes and pastries and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, but you have to serve it to people, and they just chew through it. And the old expression, you can't have your cake and eat it too. By the way, that expression is a mistranslation. It's actually should be translated, you can't have your cake and keep it too, but it's been translated that way. You can't have your cake and eat it too, which is a lie, because why can't you keep it and eat it? Right, so as you can see, I'm actually kind of giving this paint some directionality, because I actually know what I want to do with the next piece. And it's one of the things I like to do is use paint, use the directionality of the paint itself to imply movement and kind of flow and vibrancy. So I'm actually putting movement into the paint with these long vertical lines here, horizontal lines here, and then I'm going to do vertical on the bottom left and horizontal on the bottom horizontal on the bottom left. Because I already know what the next piece is. This isn't like a random, I'm not just covering this up for something unknown, something random. I'm covering this up because I have a specific piece I want to do. It's going to be one of my new rules pieces, so those really colorful ones. And it's one that I'm pretty excited about. And as soon as I saw it, I knew I needed to do it. And I really don't have any more storage space for canvas. I don't really have, I haven't been selling that much very recently, so I need to save up a bit for baby. And I've also got a studio space now. I actually went to Hamilton House today in Bristol and looked at a beautiful studio, little space, but it's perfect for me. But I need to have some funds for that, so I'm not going to go out and be buying canvases. So I've just started painting over some of my older stuff. It's a bit sad, because you make these paintings, you fall in love with one, and what are you going to do? You can't just keep storing it forever. You gotta someday just say goodbye, move on, and there it goes. All that, you can still see the outline of the sword. That's such a three-dimensional piece. It's kind of funny to still see that, but yeah, it's got to be done. You can't have your cake and eat it too. This was a pastry kind of approach of like, okay, there was a cake for a while, but I don't even think I ever showed this piece, which is kind of a weird thing. This piece was just done. I think I put it in storage. If you ever came to my studio or my house, you probably saw it, but I don't think anyone ever really saw it publicly. I don't think I ever hung it at an exhibition or anything like that. It's kind of a shame, but when you've got as much work as I do, you can't show every single piece that you've ever made. It would just be too time consuming. But yeah, this directionality. I mean, you can I don't know if you can see it in the video, but there's kind of like streaks down that way, then streaks that way, then streaks that way, and streaks that way, because I'm going to divide it into quarters for the next piece. So I'm going to kind of start that process now. And then when it finally does get divided in the next piece, it's going to have this really kind of vivid movement to the paint itself. The paint itself is going to have this beautiful movement to it, and then it's going to have these really bold colors I'm sure a lot of you guys know my work enough to know that I really like color and kind of get a bit obsessed with it, in fact. But it's going to have these really bold colors, so it's going to have this beautiful kind of underlying, undulating, streaky movement. And then on the top, there's going to be these really smooth, really kind of high finish colors, which is really kind of what I like to accomplish with paintings. This one I've been thinking, do I want to sand down the old piece? I haven't quite decided yet, because if I sand it down, I could get this really nice finish, but if I leave it properly, three-dimensional from the history of the piece, I kind of like the idea that the history of the canvas has its own history, it has its own identity, and having that history in the canvas, I think adds really a lot to the depth of a painting like this. So I'm probably gonna, even though it's like doesn't work with what the next piece is, in terms of conceptually, I'm probably going to leave the three-dimensionality aspect of it, because it just gives gives the canvas itself, it gives the painting a story, a history. It's not trying to pretend that it was something else. It was like, no, embracing the fact that this was the painted over piece. This was something else at some other time in its existence. It's evolved, it's changed, it's gone into the next phase of its existence. And not having fear of that change, not pretending it doesn't exist, but just embracing it and saying, yeah, this is a change. This used to be something else, and now it's this. You can still see the something else there, but it's no longer that. That is not its identity anymore. That is not its feel anymore. It is a fully new thing. But any new thing, nothing doesn't have a story. Every single thing on Earth has a story. There's no such thing as a new thing. Everything was once old, everything came from somewhere, everything has a history, and trying to embrace that fact instead of covering it up, of saying, no, this is new. It's like, well, it's new, yes. It's new in the sense that it's something that hadn't been there before, but it came from somewhere. Everything came from somewhere. Everything comes from somewhere. All people, all things, all objects. So you can see I'm still kind of using that directionality. So over here I went left to right, and then kind of once I've come to the midway point, I'm going up and down. I'm sure you could probably guess this is going to be broken into quarters, this piece, the background. So I'm going to do a background, and then I'm going to do a foreground on top, on front of it. But it's a piece I'm really quite excited about, because it came to me in the bath. Those of you who know me well, know I like to think in the bath. I take baths in the dark. It's one of my favorite activities, is taking baths. It helps me think. It helps me calm down. It just gives me time for being with myself in a really safe and peaceful environment. I find it really helps me to get a hold on what is going on in my life. And so this piece, I was in the bath the other night, just with the candles out, sitting in the dark, and it just popped in there. And I was like, okay, I have to do that. And then how am I going to do that? Well, I couldn't really buy any more canvases, so here I am working on an old canvas. And I would have been just as happy to work on a new canvas if somebody had seen this piece online on one of my posts and said, "Oh, don't destroy the sword and shield. I want that piece." But no one contacted me, so you gotta trust the universe. You gotta trust other people, and you gotta just kind of go forward and do the things that feel right. And it felt right to get rid of this piece, so here it goes. That's the last bit of it. So that's the first coat. That's the first coat of arms, so to speak. The first coat of goodbye. Oh, the first coat of goodbye. But it's already got its kind of own unique identity and character. And it's funny whenever you do work on old pieces this way, and either paint over them or do something like that. It's so regular that something else. I'm painting over this one with very explicit intent to what I want to create next in this space. This isn't just being painted over. It's not being just sacrificed for the hell of it. But that being said, sometimes you have to really pay attention, because in the process sometimes, because this piece has a history and has an identity and it already has a vibrational quality, something else will emerge from the whole process. And you have to respect that. You can't just say, "Oh no, that was the plan. The plan was to do this, I'm going to do this." No, sometimes if something else comes through, you have to be really sensitive to that, because these pieces have their own history, they have their own space, they have their own identity, and it'd be really disrespectful of the piece and kind of its history if when it kind of called out to me, or when it spoke, I wasn't listening. So I'm going to just let that dry. If you're interested, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching. But I'm just going to let this dry now, let it chill out. I'm definitely going to go over it with at least one more coat, probably two, because I really want it to be brilliant white. And then, I'm going to let it sit and see where the process takes me. So thanks for tuning in, and yeah, signing off. Bye, guys.